I'd like to invite the dedicators of the entire Torah, Maureen and Rob Berger, to sign the final letter of the entire Torah, the letter Lamed of Yisrael, the Torah that we began exactly 1 year ago in March. We now are signing the very final letter of the word Yisrael at the end of the 5th book of the Torah. Rob, please hold the arm of the scribe. Barlene, please hold Rob's arm, and together we are all connected with the power of Torah. This is it, folks. The Torah that we received from Mount Sinai 3,335 years ago has just been completed in this holy and awesome moment only through the actions, the contributions, the devotion, and the passion of every single member of this community. Please stay where you are as we recite together the holy verses of the inauguration of the Torah. It's on page 18 in the Torah. I'd like to ask Rob to please recite verse number 7 in English or in Hebrew.
18. Verse number 7. V'imru Hoshienu Elohei Yishenu V'kamtsenu V'hetzenu Min Hagayim Lehodos L'Shem Kotshaka V'hishtabea B'tihilotecha.
Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'imru Ameh Yaseh Shalom Shalom
Mazel tov, Mazel tov. It is with great pleasure and honor that we pay tribute to recognize a special couple that stood up after all the 5 books of the Torah had already been dedicated. It was this special couple that contacted us from Chicago, Illinois, on a Friday morning on Zoom. Remember those days when we had Zoom? And there they were, Rob and Maureen sat in front of the Zoom screen and said to me something that made me literally fall off my chair. with the pictures of their parents behind them. Of Rob and Maureen's parents, Helen and Harry Berger, Sarah and William Fryer, and a picture of their 8 grandchildren, children and grandchildren behind them. They said to me that there is no value more important to them than Lador Vador, from generation to generation. Rob and Maureen Berger felt that there was no greater manifestation of their family values than dedicating our community Torah, than underwriting this extraordinary community Torah here for our shul at the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. Rob and Maureen are a role model for retirees. With their love of Torah, Rob attends the daily minyan, and we all know that couldn't ever happen without Maureen's encouragement and support. Devoting his free time to deepen his faith in an immersive Jewish experience, all with love, with joy, and always with a joke. It gives us great pleasure to call upon Rob and Maureen Berger to please accept the first award of tonight's evening, underwriting tonight's Sefer Torah for a Safer World.
Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens, Sefer Torah for a Safer World, lovingly dedicated by Maureen and Robert Berger in memory of Helen and Harry Berger, Sarah and William Fryer, and in honor of Natalie, Matthew, Samantha, and Andrew Brenner, Emily, Jason, Ellie, and Audrey Keith.
A piece of our fairy Torah scroll. Rob and Maureen, it's all yours.
Come on the other side and we'll do a picture. Go on the other side.
When my father was 90 years old, he was in good health and still driving, but he was in desperate need of a new car. And for years I asked him, why don't you buy a car? And he said, at my age, I'm not going to get my money's worth. A year after he turned 90, it happened, there was a death. No, not my father. He lived another decade. It was the car died. It was an absolute wreck. But it taught us an important lesson. Not everything in life is about whether you're going to get your money's worth out of something. When Maureen and I decided to participate in the writing of this Torah, at our age, it wasn't a question of whether we were going to get our money's worth. We didn't do it for ourselves. We did it for our children, our grandchildren, and our grandchildren's grandchildren. The Torah is the link in the chain from Moses and that first generation to our generation and to the generations that will follow follow us. And it's a difficult chain to keep strong. There's a synagogue in St. Paul, Minnesota, Temple of Aaron. It was founded 113 years ago by a small group of Orthodox men who saw a need for a conservative shul in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. The shul became very successful, but in the early 1950s, a fire burned the synagogue building down to the ground. Fortunately, they were able to rebuild it. And of greater luck was that they had a nationally renowned architect and designer who built the shul. And the inside sanctuary and the lobby and other rooms were so magnificent that the cities of Minneapolis-St. Paul asked if the shul would agree to be part of the architecture tour of significant buildings in that area. And the shul agreed. A couple of years ago, a church group got on a church bus. The church bus came to the shul, and the church group came out and went inside the shul for a tour of the shul. The rabbi happened to be there that day, and he spoke to the church group as they stood in the lobby. When he finished speaking to them, he noticed that there was a young man from the church group who had been standing in front of a painting the entire time, staring at it. So he went over to the young man from the church group and said, what is it about this painting, if I may ask, that has you so mesmerized? The young man pointed to the painting, which was a portrait of the original Orthodox men who had founded the shul. And there was a gold plate below the painting, below the portrait, with the names of these Orthodox men. The young boy pointed to one of the men in the photograph and said, "That is my great-grandfather." In just 2 generations, an Orthodox great-grandfather to his church-going great-grandson, the chain for that family had been broken. It's always a struggle. And anything that we can do to try to keep the chain together, like writing a new Torah, gives us a better chance at keeping the chain strong and having it continue. The struggle is not new. There's always been a struggle. Take Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof. We all know the story. The poor milkman struggling in early 20th century Tsarist Russia to survive, to feed his family. And on one particular day, when things are particularly bad, he looks up and says, "If only I were rich, maybe things would be easier." And in the song, "If I Were a Rich Man," he sings about what he would do. He would have a big house. He would have servants. He would have material possessions. But it's the last verse of that song, which has always been very meaningful to me, and which I think is even more meaningful to us all here today. I was going to read that verse, but Marty Knopf asked me this morning if I was singing tonight. All right, Marty, I'm going to sing. "If I were rich, I'd have the time that I lack to sit in the synagogue and pray, and maybe have a seat by the eastern wall. And I discuss the holy books with the learned men several hours every day. That would be the sweetest thing of all." That would be the sweetest thing of all. Not the material possessions, the holy books. And what could be more holy than the Sefer Torah? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your participation in making this a reality. And Maureen and I have a prayer for all of us and for you. It is our prayer and our hope that 100 years from today, when our great-grandchildren get off of a bus in Palm Beach Gardens, or out of an airplane, or more likely a self-driving car, and they walk into the Chabad, it won't be to look at a portrait of a long since dead relative. It'll be to look at the Sefer Torah that their great-grandparents dedicated today, to read from that Torah, to have an aliyah from that Torah. And if that happens, that will be the sweetest thing of all. Thank you very much. And if you will allow me one quick plug, there is no better gift for a life cycle event, whether it's a wedding, a bar mitzvah, or to memorialize someone who has passed, or a friend, or someone who is sick, than to give that person a piece of the Torah. And the rabbi will meet with you. He'll spend time with you to find the exact portion that fits that special event. So please keep that in mind. This isn't the end. There are verses and parshas that are still available, and the rabbi will work with you to find something that's appropriate. Thank you very much. When we found out that they were donating when we found out that they were writing a Torah for Chabad, Maureen and I talked, and we agreed that that would be something that we would like to do, not for us, but for our children, our grandchildren, and our grandchildren's grandchildren. And we are very happy that we did it, and we love the way the Torah turned out. In 100 years, hopefully, some of our great-grandchildren will come here and see the Torah that we dedicated. Or better yet, it won't be here. They'll come to a bigger Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens that we built. The rabbi is like a magnet. The minute he comes close to someone, they are drawn to him and drawn to Chana. They are warm, they are welcoming, they are understanding, they're passionate, and it's very hard not to be excited when you're in the Rabbi and Chana's presence, and their children. I love going to Shabbat services and watching his family and Label's family. It's a wonderful example of the next generation of Jews. And it's been wonderful. We've been here 10 years almost, and it's been wonderful seeing the children grow up. And we just love every minute that we're here.